immediately leaves.
Yeah. Uh, what is up? This is the Talking Place, and I am Los, and I'm joined here by Sara. Hello, Sara.
Hello.
Sara is a returning guest here. We talked to her. We collectively. I talked to her. A few episodes ago, discussing book subscriptions and all that fun stuff. I also have another guest here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Autumn, also known as the Autumn Book Reads on Instagram. Um, to sum it up real quick, if you don't know me, I do book box guesses and like special edition investigating,
Yeah,
I guess is the word for it.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. There is going to be, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of book nerds that are going to be, tuning into this. But my general audience is not really focused on books and reading and stuff like that. I'm more on the gamer side of podcasting. But and I'm this show is more general talk about anything. So, but I enjoy books from time to time. I'm not as hardcore as a lot of people. Not naming names, but I have my fair share of stuff that I get into. So it's good to have you. I appreciate you joining us. You are definitely selling yourself short because you are like royalty to the book community, and it's appreciated all the stuff you do. So hopefully we could get into some good talk here. Uh, so yeah, what are we going to talk about? Is there something? Are we talking books? Yeah, let's talk books. All right. So
Let's talk the weather.
yeah. Yeah, we were talking the weather for like about 15 minutes waiting for autumn. It was fun. Uh,
Yep, that was my fault.
yeah. No, it's all good. All right. So basically, to pick up where we left off with Sara from the previous episode, book boxes, subscriptions, all that stuff. It's very much a thing. It's something that it's seemingly like revving up, I guess. I feel like every other week I see that there's a new box that pops up that I never heard about. But then again, like, I don't have my finger on the pulse like, like Autumn and Sara probably. So it's something that, you know, I'm I'm still I'm still learning, you know, even though I've been in the book box game for over a year now. Well, it's been about 2 years, yeah. So how is it for you guys? Do you feel like, because spoiler for me, uh it's been about 2 or 3 months since I've been like really feeling the subscribing and like, all the stuff that I was into and everything. Like I feel like it's burning out for me a little bit, but it could be just like one of my moods that I'm in. Like, how do you guys feel about where it is now and how it's been? Like, do you feel like it's still going up and up and up and all that, or is it like, leveling out, mellowing out compared to what it was?
I think for me, like when I first started, obviously I was so excited. We don't get any fancy books in Australia, it's just not a thing. But now, like I joined, I think October 2022, so I'm coming up on my second year with Fairy Loot. Um, I think for me, like previously, I used to buy sequels to every book from my sub box, whether I liked it or not. Now I'm being more selective. One, I'm running out of space on my shelves. I just cannot get every single book. Um, and two, I find like even Fairy Loot's like standalone non-sub boxes that they do, it's cheaper for me to just get a Waterstones edition now. And for me, I think as publishers start doing more of their own special editions, I feel like we're going to see sub boxes maybe like not be as big of a hype as they previously were. I just find like the Fairy Loot Legends and Lades bookish the Bookshops and Bone Dust set, and now the publishers come out with like their own special edition that's not exactly the same, but like very similar. Like it's the same edges in a different color, and it's like half the price of what the Fairy Loot edition was for me. So it's definitely something that I'm kind of like, do I still need this or can I go without? But I don't have the mental strength to cancel just yet. They still got me.
Yep. Yeah, FOMO is definitely dangerous here. Uh, well, what about you? I mean, Autumn, you're like you're there. You are in the front lines here. So, like, what was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what Sarah said. So I have been subscribed to, if for Fairy in particular, since November of 2019. Um, so coming up on 5 years now. Um,
Jeez. Now, when did they start?
so I first heard about them in what probably would have been 2017.
Okay.
And I think Owl Crate started around the 2014 area. So I
Oh,
feel like around there is
yeah.
about accurate.
That's
Um,
a lot farther back than what I thought they were.
yeah, it's surprising because I think it took a minute for book boxes to get off the ground because to start with, they mostly just did editions where it would be the regular copy, but with like a signature inside,
Mm,
um, or with like a book plate. And so I think at the time that was interesting to people, but like I don't think people wanted to spend the money just to get an extra signature. Um, and then I think what really changed it was when boxes started doing more like customizations and changing the cover. And so there's this mentality where it's like, oh, I can only get this cover if I buy this box. and that is a very hard mentality to break from, especially to begin with. But I agree. I think it is getting to the point where publishers, I think they saw the success of book boxes, particularly like Fairy Loot, and were like, "Ooh, we want a piece of that." So they were like, "Okay, well, we're just going to start making editions for regular books that you can just buy in a bookstore, and that way they get more of the profits." And I think it is causing an interesting issue for people because people only have certain amounts of money to spend, and
mm,
before boxes were the only places to get these special editions, and now more and more publishers are starting to do just regular copies of special.
yeah.
So I think a lot of the fantasy boxes and boxes that typically do more traditionally published books are going to start running into a bit of an issue where people are like, oh, well, I can just get the standard edition for cheaper, or I actually like the standard copy better than the special edition.
If you were to look on Amazon now, there is a crap load of special edition books, like the types of books with stenciled edges and like these nice looking special editions that are just there, like just pre-order regular old whatever. And I feel like the more I see of those, it's like I get excited, I get happy because I feel like that is taking more of the, I guess, the power away from the sub boxes, because like you said, it's my big hang up with it is keeping up with so many of them, like, yeah, this one's great, I like this one, I like that one, but it's like I can't subscribe to all of them and get them all at the same time. It's not something that I could personally do. So it's like picking and choosing. It sucks, but it is what it is, and that's the way it goes. But to be able to just buy one from Amazon or buy one from Barnes and Noble or wherever you want to go, and that's where they have it. Like it's awesome that it's branching out like that. So it's it's real cool to see the evolution of it. like all these publishers and stuff catching up and making things special and making them more enticing to pick up.
Very much so. And one thing that I noticed, so I used to work at Barnes and Noble. And so this was like the last 2 years, so like 2021, 2022. Um, and I remember one of the things, because I was very much in the book box world at the time, and one of the things that I noticed was like Waterstones in the UK, they would get a lot of special editions for
Mm-hmm.
their books versus Barnes and Noble, which
Oh man,
I don't know
it.
how many people know this, but the CEO is the same. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it it was bought. Barnes and Noble was bought by the same person. So I was always like, why does Waterstones get all the super pretty ones with this like stenciled edges when Barnes and Noble in the US doesn't? And one thing that someone pointed out to me was because the US market was considered different by the publishers. Like, for instance, the hardcovers, all of our books most of the time come out in hardcover in the US first before we ever get them in a paperback, which is typically like a year later. And the reason for that is because publishers get more money on hardcovers rather than paperbacks. The profit margin is larger. And so they were running into an issue where the US market, people wanted paperbacks because the US market wanted cheaper rather than the more expensive hardcover. And so for the longest time, how publishers looked at it was, oh, well, people in the UK are willing to spend money to get the hardcover special editions, but no, our US market isn't like that. And I think it took them a really long time to realize that actually there is a market for it in the US. Um, and even within the last year, I have seen a drastic increase in the amount of special editions that Barnes and Noble and US bookstores are now having from publishers that we did not have a year, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the Fourth Wing first edition Dragon Edges, do you feel like that had an impact on, because I feel like obviously prior to that there were first edition prints that had like, some fancy things, but I feel like it was after Fourth Wing that when like the Red Tower that we really started to see that ramp up, where it was like it seemed like every first edition, not from a book box, was now getting like a special printing just for that first edition. Do you feel like Fourth Wing had an impact on that?
I was wondering how long it was going to be until Fourth Wing was mentioned.
Oh yeah, definitely. As someone who was in the ground, on the ground, who worked at a bookstore when Fourth Wing came out, I can tell you that Fourth Wing definitely had an impact. Like, so we got the first shipment because it's so funny. People weren't expecting Fourth Wing to blow up, which was interesting because I thought it would. Um, and so we got our first shipment in of the books on April 15th of last year. And the book was supposed to come out the first week of May, I believe. And it was not strict on sale, which means that booksellers are allowed to put it out on the floor. The publisher was not being strict about those copies. So when we got them in mid-April, we put all of our copies out. And obviously I bought one and a bunch of my coworkers bought one. But then when we hit like the third week of May, that's when like it blew up and everyone wanted it. And we had already sold out, and we like all the bookstores in Georgia, which is where I'm located, had sold out. And we were like, okay, well, now we have to order from the publisher because people were going feral for this book. And we were told that we would not get the next shipment, which was going to be the second printings. We were not going to get those until August. And we didn't get any books until August of Fourth Wing. So we had people coming in right when the buzz hit, and we had to consistently tell people like, no, I'm sorry, we won't have it. We won't have it until August.
Yeah, it got me. I'd started seeing it show up on my Instagram. I'd only just kind of been active on Bookstagram leading up to it, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll read it when I get to it. My TBR is never ending, and then and then it seemed like overnight it was just everywhere, and everyone was going crazy about it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just buy a copy. And then I was like, oh, I've never seen, because like hardcovers in Australia, we don't get hardcovers, we get paperbacks. So we get the really large trade paperbacks, and then we'll get the small ones when the UK prints their paperbacks. So it's like very rare to find a hardcover in stores. In fact, I'm pretty sure aside from like some select editions, Fourth Wing is like the first time I've seen even like department stores stock a hardcover book because of the hype. And I actually, one of my good friends lives in the US, and I was like, hey, do you have a Costco near you? Can you go see if they have this book for me? And she bought me a copy and shipped it. And then, yeah, like the hype got me, like, we got an Australian exclusive edition which we'd never had like our own special edition before. And I ended up with like 6 copies of Fourth Wing, which I now have to deflash. So it definitely got me like, and I liked the book. I didn't really like Iron Flame, but I definitely think like it had such a big impact because then it seems like after that, and I know like a lot of them are Red Tower books and that's like their thing, but it was like every single first edition printing now, mostly in the US, it was rare for like the UK or Australia to get it, but it was like if you pre-order this first edition, you get this, this special thing with it as
Hmm.
well. And it was like, and with that, and then Waterstones, I feel like people just don't feel scared about canceling subscriptions if they aren't vibing with them anymore. Especially when you factor in like how many subscribers Fairy Loot has, like they've got to be, they would have thousands of subscribers. So it's not like you can keep the sub and really make your money back. Like it's rare to have a book that is going to sell for like enough that the other books that you're selling at cost to make up for that. So I think people are just like, you know what, there's other options for me. I don't need to be subscribed to this. That's kind of how I'm feeling. That's why I cancelled the adult sub, which I kind of regret. But I just couldn't keep up with the sequels anymore. With the conversion and the shipping, like the sequel books cost me $100. And when there was like two or three, like at one point there was three a week. And I was like, I can't spend $300 in one week on books. It's insane. So I cancelled the Fairy Loot adult and I subscribed. Like I got a invite to the Broken Binding, where the sequels are part of the subscription. So even though it was the same as the Fairy Loot sub, it was like more cost effective because I didn't have to worry about buying sequels as well. And I found that their adult picks are more likely to get a Waterstones edition than the YA picks that they do. So I was just like, I'll just get the Waterstones copy, whatever.
Yeah, you're lucky you get Waterstones. I mean, like, Autumn said, it was Waterstones kicks Barnes and Noble's ass. Like as much as I love Barnes and Noble, like there's no comparison with the editions that they get compared to us. It is no contest at all.
Yeah, very much so.
I do love it, even though they got rid of my Waterstones plus points.
Oh,
Just
don't
sad.
get started on that. That broke my soul.
I was like, come on, like I've spent so much money on you guys. Please don't do this to me. I just went and like used them all last week. I was like, oh God. I was gonna save them after like 12 months and like do a splurge. And then Waterstones was like, absolutely not.
It was it was funny listening to the Fourth Wing uh flashback. I know Sarah knows my story. I don't think Autumn, I'm sure Autumn doesn't know, but I had pre-ordered my Fourth Wing, my first edition, because I thought it looked cool on Amazon, so I pre-ordered it. And then and then when it was like a week until it released, I canceled it because like I didn't have like the $20 at the time, and I was like, whatever, I'll just pick it up whenever I see it. And yeah, that was like the biggest kick in the ass that I ever gave myself.
Yeah, I bet. I bet like 2 weeks later you were like, oh no.
Uh-huh. Yep. And sure as shit, like I every time I see one of these special edition books, like especially like the unreleased, the ones that have no information or whatever, I hit pre-order. Like I don't even think about it. Like I'm just okay, just in case. Let's see where this goes, and then I'll think about it afterwards.
Yep, that's
Yeah, I see the resale. Like even when Fourth Wing first started to hype, the first editions were selling for like I think the most I saw was maybe $750 in Australia, which is like
Jeez.
roughly three fifty American. And I was just like, I was looking at my copy on my shelf, and I was like, should I?
Oh man, that sounds about right. I think the most I saw was about 400 over here. So for like as far like you just said, like thinking about selling or whatever, like is there because right now where I'm at, I've been, here and there with the special edition stuff and everything. I mean, I still have my subscriptions. I still have ones that I'm excited to get, and everything. But I'm looking at my shelf like, do I need all these? Do I need my, my all my copies of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame? Do I need like are there any uh are there any special editions that you guys have sold that you regret or that you are like, totally okay, like if you wanted it gone or if you needed it gone, like that's going to be the first one to go? Like do you have any going on like that or is it just me?
I've only sold one, and it was Silver in the Bone, and I do not regret it because I it was probably my least favorite special edition that Fairy Loot has done, and I also didn't like the book, so I wasn't sad to see it go. Um, I think because I am going to sell my Fairy Loot and my Fairy Loot Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and I think maybe I might regret it for like a brief period.
Mm.
But I didn't enjoy Iron Flame reading it. So I feel like I won't continue getting the special editions from Fairy Loot. I'll get them for like whoever buys my copies, sure, but I'll just stick with either the paperbacks or if they continue the Australian special editions, then I'll get those. But yeah, I just like I think when I counted when we spoke last, I had like seven Fourth Wings. Who needs that many copies of a book? Like, be for real right now. I was like, the hype, it got me. The hype got me. I was
Yeah.
like, anytime a new edition was announced, I was like, add to cart. That
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the people who pre-ordered the holiday edition when it was like untitled Red Tower,
Yeah.
book, and I just look back and I'm like, who was that person? Like, I've never been so swept up by like hype before because I did really enjoy the first book. Um, and then Iron Flame was just like a big letdown for me. And it was like kind of a blessing in disguise because now I can save so much money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's the only ones that I've really considered selling. I think when my shelves are actually full, I may look at like the rereadability or like, is this a pretty book that I'm like fine with just leaving there as a decoration?
Mm-hmm. What about you,
Well,
Autumn?
as for me, so I've sold quite a few of my special editions over the years because I've been collecting for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, like when I originally got into boxes, I was very like, okay, you have to buy everything. And it was almost like a completionist like mentality where I was like,
Yes, yes.
I'm missing this one book that they did like a year ago and I need it. So like
Mm-hmm.
there was a time where I was paying like resale prices to get books that I hadn't even read because I wanted to complete my shelves. Which looking back, I just want to like face palm at that. Because there was a lot of money that I spent that realistically I wish would have gone to other things now. Um,
Yep.
as far as so I eventually got to a point where I was like, okay, there's too many boxes, there's too many special editions coming out. I can't afford to buy everything. So then from that point on, there was like a turning point in my head where I was like, okay, do I really need this book? Am I really going to read it? Is it something I'm genuinely interested in? And so that caused me to go through like a massive like decluttering of a bunch of special editions that I was like, yeah, you're never going to read this. Um, and I guess the one that I think about the most would be like I sold the Illumicrate editions of the Poppy War trilogy,
Uh,
which
Oh, yeah.
uh, those sell for so much now and they're so rare now. Um, and part of me regrets it from the standpoint of I liked having them on my shelves. They were beautiful, but then realistically, I also know I'm never going to read them like ever. uh, so I'm glad that I sold them, but that's the one that like I still feel a little twinge in my heart when I think about them sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair. I ended up with two copies of the Fairy Loot Crescent City because my first set was damaged, and I was like, oh, I'll like just sell it, you know, whatever the damaged copies are going for. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it to my sister. But then I put them both on my shelf, and like one that has the spine and one has the edges, and I was like, oh yeah, I can't. Yeah, you're stuck now. So now when they do book three, I'm gonna have to get two copies of book three.
Oh my
So I think if I did sell like the damaged editions or give them to my sister, which I'm glad I didn't because she was like, I'm getting into reading and then like never read again.
God.
Um, I think I would regret it. That's like the one that I'm like, you're with me forever for the long haul.
Yeah, it's fun. I do that too. Because I have like I would have a regular standard copy of something, and if it like for Amina, I have a standard copy, and then I have the Fairy Loot one, and I have the edges pointing out for the Fairy Loot one, and then I took the dust jacket from the Fairy Loot and I put it on the standard, so I have them like next to each other.
Oh,
So
nice.
so it's like you're not the only crazy one with the double books next to each other. It's I don't know. I don't have a lot of shell. Well, I have a lot more now than what I did before. but but I try to stick to one shelf. We have three. So one shelf is for like, you know, family picture stuff and everything. Uh one shelf is my wife's shelf, and then I have my shelf. And like I try to not overpack it and like go crazy, like having it stacked full and then, really have no room for anything. So, it's kind of hard to try and plan out and like stick with the duplicates and all that stuff if I don't really need them and all that. So, but yeah, I know I'm not the biggest uh crazy person out there. I know that there's a lot more people that are a lot more passionate about their shelves, and I'm just like a disorganized mess. So whatever.
You're doing what works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Who's gonna judge me? My 14-year-old who already judges me about everything else.
I was
All
going to
right.
say yes.
Yeah. All right. So we have, on the topic of shelves, uh what are we looking at with you guys? Autumn, like you've been in this for a while now. So I I feel like you have a count. I feel like there's somewhere where you're keeping tally of how many books you have. Like what is, give me like an actual number or a rough estimate. Like what are we looking at?
Okay. So I do have to do another count soon. At because I have gotten a lot recently in. The last that I counted, I'm at about 1,700.
You're a library, officially.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, and I currently stand at 16 bookcases.
Oh
Jeez.
my God. Do you have like a library room?
Yes.
All right.
How does it feel to be living my dream?
All right, but do you have a rolling ladder?
No, that I want
Okay.
that so bad eventually. That's like amazing.
All right, there's still room for upgrading then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a lot. I mean, that's like I'm glad I asked. I know that's like borderline like asking a woman how old you are, but it's like that's a lot. And I could only I mean, have you ever done like a video or like, something showing off like your collection or no?
So no, I get asked about that a lot.
Mm.
People are always asking me like, please do a bookshelf tour. My problem is I am so unorganized.
Yes.
Like, for instance, right now I have a little table in the room that I put books that I unboxed. And so today, I've been on a trips recently with a Polycon and a bunch of other things. And so I got back today and I opened a bunch of boxes. There are 100 books on that table.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. How many boxes are you subscribed to?
Oh, I'd have to count.
We'll wait. It's all right.
Well, I guess it'd be easier to probably list them off. Okay, let's see. I've got all three Fairy Loot subscriptions. Illumicrate, Afterlight, Owl Crate YA, Owl Crate Adult, Bookish Box Darkly, um, Motley Chronicles, Blackout Romance, Eternal Embers Onyx, Broken Binding. What else am I forgetting? Mystic, Arcane.
Yeah.
It just goes on. It goes on and on. So what? I have probably close to 20 subscriptions, probably.
Jeez.
We are not worthy. We
There are people in the Fairy Boot Discord who were like, I can't remember who it was, but someone was like, oh, I've got to pick what I'm skipping this month, and I'm like, why do you have to decide that? Like, I've just got at the time I just had the Fairy Loot YA and adult, um, and she's like, I've got like 12 subscriptions. I'm like, what? And she's like, well, they're very selective, so they don't get. It's very rare that they would get all 12 books in the 1 month. Are you like select? I know you post like, what am I getting this month?
Mhm.
Um, so do you find you skip more often than not, or?
Yes, I utilize my skips a lot, which is why there's a couple boxes who have like a no skip policy, and no matter how much I want to subscribe to them, I am not willing to do so because of the no skip policy. Um, but yes, I utilize my skips a lot, and Fairy Loot in particular has made that difficult for me.
Yeah.
With I'm sure people talk about it all the time, but Fairy Loot with when they revised their skip policy to 4 skips, starting from your first skip per year, it made things very difficult for me.
Yeah, I feel like 6 would have been. I've never skipped Fairy Loot, even if I'm like the June YA book. I'm kind of like, I don't know, but I'll just like whatever. It may end up being pretty. I may end up liking the book. So I've never skipped. I've never been tempted to skip. Um, but I feel like 6 would have been a fair number. 4 just to me, because some of their picks are kind of not great. I think 6 would have been a fair number.
I agree. I think I would have felt much better at 6.
Because I feel like if you're not liking at least half the books a year, then I feel like because I feel like even though I don't like some of their skips, I feel like they're pretty consistent with the style of book that they pick. And I feel like if you don't like at least 50% of them, what are you subscribing for? Like, please find someone. There's so many companies now. Um, but yeah, 4 is just if I was to be like a skip person, I think like if I could retroactively skip, I would have hit 4 so quick in a 12-month period, and I would have been like, well, I'm stuck here now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, it is like for me because I don't know if you guys know, I'm a dude, I'm a guy, right?
No
So
way.
yeah, spoilers. So I I have tastes, I have guy tastes. I'm a guy, so it's like all the purple sparkly, you know, fairy stuff. Like I'm good if it's done right to my liking, with character art, front and center, or like really overly, glittery. Like I can't, like I don't feel like that's where I want my shelf to be. Like I like my books to be like darker, more just for example, uh owl crates, uh Tempest, the Tempest of Tea, the which one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what that's
Yeah,
called, right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
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 So that one is perfect. That one, when I saw that, that screamed to me. I was like, holy crap, that's mine. That's perfect. Like that's what I like. Like simple stuff like that. And I got I got the trilogy for Atlas 6 from Illumicrate, and every time I saw pictures of it and everything, I was like, man, that looks awesome. I really want that. And I wound up getting it for Christmas. And it's like I had them in my hands, all three of them, and like I couldn't. Like they were way too like way too sparkly for me. Like I just couldn't like I had them, and like I didn't like them. So I wound up selling those. Those were the last ones I sold. But but yeah, Fairy Loot is very much like they stick to their guns. Like you see a book and it's a special edition, like there's a good chance that you could tell if it's from Fairy Loot.
Very
They
much.
do. They do have a very distinct aesthetic, and it was what like they were the first book company that I saw. And it wasn't even on like it was before I even had a Bookstagram. It was just like my normal personal Instagram, and I was seeing ads for it, and I was like, oh my god! At the time, I was like, I cannot afford this. And then when I got like my first big person corporate job, I was like, oh my god, I can afford this now. And as soon as they gave me that offer and I signed that contract, I was on the wait list. And it was
Oh.
like worked out that I got the invite just before the Crescent City sale, which is the whole reason that I was like, I need to subscribe, which it
Mm.
ended up going to general anyway. But they definitely have a certain aesthetic where it's like you can tell that that is a Fairy Loot book, and same with Illumicrate. They have a very like they have and but even Bookish Box, they're so distinct, which is nice because it means like there's less of a risk of like getting a similar book from if you've got multiple subscriptions. But yeah, Fairy Loot definitely has an aesthetic that's not for everyone. um like I personally don't like the majority of the Bookish Box's designs. It's just not my vibe. And Illumicrate, I think Illumicrate does really like they absolutely won the Swordcatcher special edition
Oh yeah.
competition. They
Mhm.
knocked it out of the park. Um, but yeah, Fairy Loot definitely has an aesthetic that grabbed me. It was Daughter of the Moon Goddess was the first one that I saw, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh my god. And it was downhill from there. Bye bye to my money, bye bye to my private fund.
So that was the one that did it, because that was going to be my next
Yeah.
question. Which was the one that did it for you, that like got you hooked?
So I didn't actually buy it. It was just like I guess they must have been like doing a sponsored post on Instagram, and
Mhm.
that was the photo,
Yeah.
and it was like this beautiful like the flower edges, and then like the photo was also like such an aesthetic like soft girl, flowers and everything, and I was just like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. What the hell is this? And I saw it and then I think I forgot about it for like maybe like a year because it was like not as big in Australia then I feel like. And then one of my friends was subscribed to the Bookish Box and she was talking to me about them. But by that point, they were having like all the issues with, their delayed orders. And I was like, well, I don't really want to order from them if I'm going to have to wait. Um, and I signed up for the Fairy Loot waitlist. I initially just did the YA full box, and then when they announced Amina, I signed up
Mhm.
for adult because I was really, really excited for that release.
Mhm.
And I literally got my invite for the Amina box, so I was really happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Daughter of the Moon Goddess that got me, and then someone in the Discord, because I could never find it for like less than $200 in Australia, and I'd like reserve myself that I'm never going to own this book. I can't justify spending that much money on one book. And then someone was like, they just announced the Italian edition. It's pink. It's like the same edges but pink. And I was like, I don't speak Italian, but why the hell not? I'm never gonna get the Fairy Loot edition. And anyways, then I managed to grab it in the Trove sale. So now I've got an Italian. It's the only non-English copy of a book that I have,
Mhm.
but it's pink and pretty, so it stays on my shelf.
I'd say that's a win.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think it was only like $60 for like it's got like a reversible dust jacket. It's sprayed edges, a ribbon. I think it has like a colored map on the end paper and hollow foil on the hardcover and a reversible dust jacket. So it's basically like everything that a Fairy Loot edition would have for like half the cost.
Man, so yeah, it's so what about you, Autumn? Like what's your what was the one that got you hooked? The one that was there one, or was it just like, like I think I could get into this?
I'd say it was probably two. And funnily enough, I found them in a like similar way. I think at the time I was looking up editions of Caraval and The Cruel Prince.
Mm.
Um, and I don't remember which website it was, but these two different websites had all of the covers for Caraval and all of the covers for the Cruel Prince listed out, and you could see them all side by side. And for the Cruel Prince, what got me, funnily enough, was Owl Crate's covers, which I still to this day love those covers. They are my favorite. It's just like beautiful with the throne, amazing. And so that made me be like, ooh, I really want these. And for Caraval, I saw the Fairy Loot editions, which at the time had been announced, but they had not shipped. Um, and so when that happened, I was like, okay, there are really beautiful books out there that companies and like make these, and I need them. So from there on, I was like, okay, I'm really going to find some type of book subscription to get into.
Hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, for like it's there's always something like it's like the tip of the iceberg that like you see, and it's like, okay, I could do that. Let me do that. And then here we are talking about it. For me, I think it was Babel.
Mm.
Yeah, it was Fairy Loot's Babel. Like it was uh there was something I was watching, and it just popped up, and like I saw that, I was like, man, that looks awesome. And like I started the deep dive, like, getting into what is this? Why should I care about it? And I started looking, and one thing led to another. And then I was like, signing up for waitlists and all that stuff. And I think it was Fairy Loots that I saw, but then I right away, from the beginning, I always leaned more towards Illumicrate, like with their stuff. So that was the first one that I like signed up for. But yeah, it was it was that one that really got me like interested and piqued my interest and got me here now.
I can definitely see how those editions are both really beautiful. I think Illumicrate is probably my favorite as well. Like the edge design on that one is just top tier.
Yeah.
So I can see how that would be like, okay, I have to have this and I have to get more of these.
Yeah, it's like that's and like I said before, like, me being a dude, like I have my aesthetic, I have my likes, and that's like my perfect likes, like, dark and brooding and like, still really eye-catching and really, detailed with, like every corner, every side you look at it, there's some detail going on, and it was very, it very very much hooked me right there.
I feel like you would enjoy broken binding editions. I just got my first one, like my first sub book, like a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I definitely think their aesthetic is totally your vibe, and they're such good quality and they're so stunning. I'm so glad I finally got off the wait.
Broken Binding, that is the one that they just started the sci-fi.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, with the Andy Weir.
Hmm.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I signed up for that. That
Are
is
you like a sub or just the waitlist? Oh,
for
you signed up for the sci-fi.
yeah, for the sci-fi one. Because
Oh,
that's
nice.
Project Hail Mary is like still my top favorite book ever. So it is like as soon as I like heard that there was a special edition, I think it was in the Fairy Boot Discord. Like
Mm.
somebody said, like we were talking about Project Hail Mary, and then somebody said that there was, talkings of of a special edition coming from them for their sci-fi thing to go sign up for the waitlist, or for the first for to be the first people to sign up or whatever. So as soon as I got that email, I was like, all right, I got to do this because I know I'm going to regret it. And then I saw the renders, like what they're planning on doing. Holy crap, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that they show everything.
yeah, they look really, really good.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going towards for me. You know, said it a few times. I'm like kind of backing off from what I've been doing, but I think I'm gonna try and focus more on like other things, because I think that's where my issue is. I think that's where my hang up is now. Because I've been on the Fairy Loot train, and I'm really not feeling them anymore. Like I just, I it's been a long time coming since I've felt like that, and it's like every month, every 2 months, like there's something else that happened. Like now, what it is that really ticked me off just yesterday, I think, or the day before, I got my I got my fourth wing from them. Like, bringing fourth wing again. Damn book always popping up. So uh I got their copy, and like my initial thought for that, because I have Waterstones, and I have Fairy Loot. So I was going to sell the Fairy Loot one, because I prefer the edges to Waterstones. And and I took a picture of the hardback for Fairy Loot. I was like, damn, I don't know, because the foil on that is like something else. So I don't know if I'm going to sell it or not now. But then I saw that there was no signature, and that like set me off, because I realized that there was supposed to be a signature, because that's what it says on my order, the digital signature. It's digital, but whatever. Said they said it was going to be a digital signature, and now there's not. And I looked it up, and they pretty much are telling everyone like, oh, sorry, our bad. There's no digital signature, and there's nothing to do. Like, you could either get it refunded, or keep it, and you got to send it in to get your refund. So it's like it's pretty crappy, like it's just continuing down the hill for me with them. And that's, I feel like I'm not the only one that feels this way. uh I don't know if you guys want to, put 2 cents in for that, or what, but I feel like
I I am number one Fairy Loot simp. I stood by
Hmm.
them during the copy paste edges of 2023. I think I think it's hard for us specifically, like who are in the Discord. I think it's very easy for us to kind of echo chamber each other, and I think a lot of people don't understand the difficulties of actually running a business like Fairy Loot. Like everyone's
mhm.
like, I can't believe they're not standing there checking every single page of every single book. And it's like they would have a margin of error that they would accept. And they send the books out knowing that some of those books are going to be damaged. And that's why they have additional stock to replace those damages. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're ordering from Fairy Loot or, from a completely different company. Every single company in the world will have a margin of error that they find acceptable. And I think what people don't realize is they're like, I'm seeing so many copies of damaged books because people post them in the Discord. But it's because only the people who, like, aside from the person who posts the first spoilers for the monthly books, only the people who post the damages are posting their copies after that. Like it's very rare. Like you don't see, like when I get my copy, I don't post a picture in the Discord because everyone's already seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it seems like a lot of damage because only the damage copies are getting showed off in
Yeah.
the spoiler chats after that. So like I'm not saying they're perfect. I think that the way they've handled certain things has been really poor. But I just think a lot of and I think the digital signature thing, like they should have picked up on that and at least given a heads up. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they should have had to do a refund, like a partial refund, because it didn't impact the price. They didn't charge more for the digital signature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't think they should have done a partial refund. But I think where they lack for me is their communication. Like issues pop up, and it's only when someone emails them that they kind of address it. And I think they half the time they kind of bank on people just not saying anything. So I think definitely communication wise they are lacking, but in terms of like the quality, I think they are still one of the top qualities for me. Um, I've had broken binding also top tier, but like I've seen other qualities, especially from book companies in Australia, Fabled. The quality is just not the same. But yeah, I don't think people realize that it's not like no business is there inspecting every single item as it gets shipped out. That's just not how it works. If you want them to do that, you're going to pay like triple what you're paying now because they're going to have to pay people to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in saying that, their shipping prices are insane. It should
Mm-hmm.
not cost me more than the cost of the book to ship a book. So that is the one hill that I will not die on. They can change their shipping, please God. It's so expensive. So yeah, I still love my subscription. I don't have any regrets. I kind of regret canceling adult, just because the picks so far have been so good, and it kind of stings a little bit. But overall, like in terms of my experience, I've been really happy with them. I've since October 2023 when I joined, I think it was 22 that I joined. No, it's 22. I've had four books that have arrived damaged that I've requested replacements for. And considering they're coming from the UK to Australia, I think that's pretty good. And it's like it's not damage that like it's damage that's done in shipping. It's not anything where they've packed a book and it's like they've packed it damage. It's like the postman kicked it around the warehouse before popping it off at my house. So yeah, but I think that goes for every company. Maybe not Illumicrate. I think Illumicrate is pretty solid in terms of their communication with their customers and how they handle issues. But I'm not an Illumicrate sub. I have their horror sub, so I get a book once every 4 months. There's probably Illumicrate subscribers where if you ask them, they would be like, they kind of suck in this area. So, but I think in terms of like, am I happy with Fairy Loot? Absolutely. Like, it's I've rediscovered my love of reading, and I've made a lot of great friends. Both before the Discord and after, and that wouldn't have happened without Fairy Loot dropping the bag on the
Mm-hmm.
Discord.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think a lot of people just don't realize that it's how businesses work. There's going to be a margin of error. They send these books out knowing that some of them are going to get damaged. And I think in terms of replacements, except recently, I for me, Fairy Loot has always been like the top of getting replacements. I think they're kind of starting to get a bit stricter now, which I can understand because they were
Mm-hmm.
super lax in the past. Um, but like they don't ask you to destroy the original copy, which some companies do, which I hate. I just like I know it's to quote unquote um, try to counter resellers, but I just think if it's damaged enough to warrant a replacement, people aren't for the most part going to pay those crazy costs. And I just think companies need to eat the loss. Like same with companies who ask you to send it back. It's like that's such a pain in the ass. Just eat the cost. Like you're not going to like how are you going to make your money back from this?
Mm-hmm.
So um, at least in terms of damage, their replacement criteria is pretty good. Except for that one person who tried to get like 5 copies of Once a Broken Heart and then said she wasn't going to get any replacements ever. Which, to be honest, fair. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I really love my Fairy Loot sub.
Yep, it's understandable. It is I agree with everything you said. Like it is true that that it's a big company that is sending out a whole bunch of stuff, to a whole bunch of people. So it's, looking at that and seeing how many people get damaged up and how many people, don't say anything. Like it's totally understand. I think I have about the same amount of copies that have arrived damaged in the past, with them. So it's like they got a good record going for them for that. And my issue stems from, like, different things. And for me, like, I mean, on top of that, I'm still pretty sour about their sword catcher, but I think that's a different conversation. But it's something that everybody's got their hangups with stuff, and I could respect them for what they do, that's definite. But I think what you hit the nail on the head with was their lack of communication with stuff. Like, I think that is where I'm soured a lot on with them, you know. But uh do you have any book boxes that you feel like are the worst with that, Autumn? Like, I mean, I feel like you got your toes and dipped in all of them, so you probably got a good heads up on any issues. Or, like, have you got a lot of damage from one and not the other? Like, how do you feel about this?
I'm trying to think. So for Fairy Loot, I will say I agree with what Sarah said with they have always been super easy for me whenever I've needed a replacement. I think they only gave me an issue about one. And that was all the way back. That was one of the From Blood and Ash books. So that was a hot minute.
Hmm.
Otherwise, Fairy Loot has been very open whenever I have had any issues. Um, and I have been getting actually less damages from them than I would say I used to. Funnily enough, like got, I think it just worked out this way, but I received 10 Fairy Loot books in April.
Oh my
And,
God.
and
I'm trying to math right now.
yeah, well, and only one of those was damaged significantly.
Mhm,
Um, so, and that doesn't include all the other months that have passed where they weren't damaged. So I would say that's pretty good.
mhm.
I'm trying to think. Illumicrate, I don't get that many damages from, but whenever I have had damages, they have given me hell uh, to try to get a replacement to the point where I don't really try as much unless it's very bad at this point for Illumicrate because they gave me so many issues originally. Um, I'm trying to think. Who do I get probably the most damages from? Probably Fabled. Um, I don't like to talk about them too much publicly.
Is that the Australian Fabled?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to support an Australian company, and then I'm like, never mind.
Yeah. The problem is they that I really like. Um, but yeah, I would not be their number one supporter.
No, if I were to say if they have no haters, I am dead.
Yeah. Um, I don't want to say too much with them because of some
Yeah,
alleged.
no, it's fair.
Mhm.
Uh, so I don't like to really comment on them publicly for that reason. But I would say I probably get the most damages from them. Like my Salacious Players set. I don't even know how those arrived intact. uh, because it was in, they basically stuffed, um, it was their regular box that they do for their monthly subscription, which, is supposed to be one book. Well, they stuffed two thicker, comparatively, books in it, and then they had two of those. So it was four books total stuffed in these two boxes, put into a mailer bag that did not have like bubbles. It was like just the bags.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that was with like no bubble wrap at all. Like nothing to
Holy
protect.
crap.
And I remembered when I opened it, like because they had stuffed them into the boxes so much, like the boxes themselves were actually bowing upwards because they
Mhm.
weren't made to fit that many books in those boxes. And I was
Holy
like,
crap.
Yeah.
okay.
It's a shame because like I love supporting like Australian small businesses and companies because it's so rare for us to get cool things like this. And when I saw that there was like an Australian company that did special editions, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then as I did research into it, I was like, maybe not. And so then there's a new one that just started this year, Bookish and Spice, and I was so hesitant. Like I didn't even sign up, even though I was like, "Yay, it's Australian," because I was like, I am not signing up to anything until I see their editions because of all the issues that I'd seen with Fabled. And so far, like they had delays and they made the decision to pause the subscription until they caught up, which is such a good thing rather than getting in that backlog straight away. And their editions so far, it looks like they've been amazing. So hopefully they continue to grow and improve, and then I can support that company. Like they did I think Bluely Boo did a dust jacket for them for one of their books, and it was like pink and beautiful. So hopefully they are able to continue to grow and get bigger and bigger. And then we have like our own thing in Australia for once.
Yeah, I've had my eye on Bookish and Spice recently. Shipping costs from Australia to the US are typically pretty expensive. And I do realize as an American, I am very privileged in my shipping costs. Um,
Shipping
but
costs from one state in Australia to another state in Australia are insane. Like I promise you, any Australian company that like they are getting you the best shipping prices they can. They are insane in Australia. Like Nat's Book Nook, who does those, she's just come up as well. She's Australian, and she does the little book pots. And people are like, "Oh, the shipping is so expensive," and I'm like, "It's actually not that expensive for Australia. I promise." She has done the best that she could.
I'm trying to wrap my head around states in Australia. Like we 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 had our Australia talk earlier, so, and it's like something I'm learning so much about Australia now. I mean,
All of our states are like basically on the east coast, and then there's one on the west coast.
ah, I know absolutely nothing about Australian geography, so that is good
oh,
to know.
you missed out.
Yeah, it's
You
like
missed out.
Western Australia is almost half of Australia itself, and then like there's basically Queensland, New South Wales, Melbourne, and then South Australia is like bottom left, and then Northern Territory is like top right, and then Tasmania is like the little island. Um, and I was just saying it would take you 41 hours to drive from one side of Australia to the other.
Ah, I was gonna ask Autumn how long does she think it'll take?
Oh, I ruined your quiz. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, because I asked while we were waiting for you, I was asking like it was like Jeopardy for Australia edition. Like it was very fun like talking about it. Like we were talking about weather and like all like it was an interesting like 20-minute discussion. It was fun. But yeah, so basically don't subscribe to any book boxes from Australia yet.
I think Bookish and Spice, I think their editions have started coming out, and I haven't seen anyone complain about the quality, or like, they had the delays, they addressed them really quickly. It was an issue with, the quality of the printer that they had selected.
Mhm.
They addressed it really quick. They put this as like new books on hold so they could catch up. I think it's that like I know it's like one main person, but I think it's like her family helping her out. Like it's a
Uh,
very small team. And I think in like the current climate of bookish boxes where everyone, or book boxes, not bookish box, but where everyone is like so looking at it with like a magnifying glass to find
Mm-hmm.
out where you've messed up. I think they're doing really well so far. I haven't seen any complaints. And from what I've seen of the photos of people who have received their books, they look like really nice quality, and what they advertised is what's being delivered. So I wish I hope they succeed, and I can subscribe one day.
That's good.
So yeah, I think they're doing really well. So if you want to subscribe in Australia, Bookish and Spice
Well, I'm
is the way
sure
to go.
I'm sure Autumn needs another one to subscribe to.
Hey, cost isn't terrible, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
I
We're gonna see something next week. Watch.
I swear there's like always a new box that I'm finding out. Like we touched on it earlier, but I swear a new box pops up like once a month, if not more than that.
Yeah.
And particularly like the romance boxes, like the indie boxes. Lord, those are killing me.
Yeah, are there any like new ones that aren't really like as well known at the moment, or not receiving much traction, that you're kind of like hyped about?
Um, yes. Okay, so like traction is subjective. But for me, one of the ones that there's a couple, but one of the ones I'm really excited for is Twisted Fiction box. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Up until this point, they've been doing pre-orders every month. And it's been a mix of like contemporary, dark romance, and some fantasy dipped in here and there. But later this year, they are supposed to be launching a fantasy subscription, like a romantasy subscription.
Oh,
And I'm
nice.
very, very excited because a lot of their picks so far have been things that I have been really interested in. Like I've bought like 5 or 6 of their books. I have not read them, but they all sound like things I want.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and then so I'm very excited for that the romantasy subscription from them. Um, and I think that's supposed to be bi-monthly, I think, which I typically like to gravitate towards because I just find bi-monthly and quarterly subscriptions so much easier uh for my wallet in particular.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why I subbed to Evernight, because it's quarterly, and I'm like, it's basically free. You know, by the time a new one comes around, I forget I've got the sub. It's fine.
yeah, I do like my quarterly subs. And funnily enough, I think I have 3 quarterly subs, and all of them don't allow skips. But that is like my one exception to the no skip rule because it's quarterly. I'm like, if I'm only getting it every 3 months, like that makes sense why there's a no skip rule. And like I genuinely love all 3 of my quarterly boxes, so it works
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yep.
So
That does.
Twisted Fiction box is the one to watch.
Yes, them, and then the other one. So Moonlight box. Um, they do special editions, but they also launched a subscription. They're moving through their waitlist pretty quickly. Um, I know some of the upcoming lineup, so I can't say. But I what I'm trying to stress to people for the last couple months, like anyone on my lives and stuff, is to get on that wait list. It's particularly people who like the more like romantasy vibe. Because in the next couple months, there's going to be people who are very upset when they do not have a subscription, and there's going to be some pretty great books in the subscription coming up this year. And I think a lot of people, if they did not know about Moonlight, they will know about them. And I'm worried it's going to be too late.
And what did you say that was? Moonlight?
Yeah, Moonlight box.
Moonlight box. And what did you say those books were? I
I
tried.
wish.
I tried, okay? So nobody says that I didn't try. I tried. All right. All right.
Well, hopefully we'll get some emoji hints soon, and then I can tell you all.
See, is
I
I
know I would be lost without your guesses. Like I have no idea. Fairly posts a teaser and I'm like, I've got no clue. Like I could not guess. And I think for the longest time, like I didn't find your account straight away. And I was just like Googling Fairy Loot. What is the book for Fairy Loot? May 2023. And I was like, what is it? And then someone was like, go to this account. And I was like, oh my God, I could have been here all along.
yeah, let me tell you. I subscribe. I follow like, all the book boxes on Instagram, but I pay zero attention to them. Whenever I want to know something, I just go straight to your to your account, and like the post that always helps me out is the monthly wrap up ones. Uh,
Mm.
that just has everything listed for that month. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to be skipping? What am I going to be keeping? What am I, and it's always a huge help. So it's like, it's awesome that you got that cornered there, like it's good work you do. Like, I don't know how much it is, like, if is it all passion? Like, do you get is this work for you? Like, how is this? I mean, if you want to get into this or not, it's up to you.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Well, both. Thank you both. That I like. It warms my heart. It makes me so happy. At first, it started out as just like something for me, because I would just do it so I could keep track. And I was originally part of a couple Facebook groups where people tried to find it, and it got to the point where like I was like, okay, some people would be active sometimes, and other times people wouldn't, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go find it. And so then it turned into like me. I posted it for me so that I would have it to track for me, and then it just got so big. Because I started doing that in 2020, like early 2020. Um, and so it's to the point now where it's a lot of passion goes into it. It is basically a full-time job in itself. Like I think someone asked me one time, like, how I do these daily, for people that don't know, I do like a daily roundup summary post of all the bookish information, like the most important things that happened the day before. And I had someone ask me, well, how much on average does that take you? And I said probably about an hour and a half to do that post. Somebody was like, oh, that's not too bad. And I was like, yes, that's not until you put it into the perspective of, even if we round it down to an hour, which some of those can take 2.5, but let's round it down to an hour. That's 7 hours a week. Well, 6 technically, because I combine Saturday and Sunday. So 6 times 4 weeks in a month, that's 24 hours a month. So a whole entire day of my month is dedicated to that one post. uh, and that does not include like the guesses or like the monthly roundup picks posts or anything else. And so in a way, yes, it is a full-time job. But I have found it to be very rewarding from the standpoint of people are super nice. I've gotten some opportunities like this, like just being asked to come on here was a great honor for me. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Um, and so things like that I am like, I would not have that experience if I didn't start this. And I never thought it would be here, but I'm very, very grateful for all the opportunities it has given me, and for some of the friendships and connections it has fostered for me.
yeah, it is very, very apparent that a lot of work goes into. I mean, me personally, like I've been doing uh not content creation. Like I'm not like, the forerunner in social media for anything like that, but but like for over 10 years now, I've been, a blogger, and I've been, you know the occasional, dumb YouTube unboxing and stuff like I've had my share of putting in time and effort into having stuff posted, online on various channels and all that. I know it's work. Like I know that is some effort that goes into that. And if you're passionate about it, if it's something that you are really into, like, you're really into reading, into books, into collecting and all that stuff, it's easy to gather the information because you're into it, because you love it, because you want to know the information for yourself. It's easy to take it all in and to know it, that if somebody was to ask you like, hey, what about this and this, that off the top of your head, and it's easy for you to say something. But the process of gathering it all, like forming it into a nice little, you know, pie to, like, have it baked off and, make it presentable and have it posted, and put it out there for everybody to see. Like, I know that's where, like, the effort comes into. So it's appreciated what you do, because it's something else, like, that you're like it, you should be getting paid for it. Like, that's the level that you're at, because it's to a point where I wouldn't do it. Like, it's way too much work for me, personally. But you're awesome at it, you're good. And it is appreciated. Like, I mean, you know to bring up Fairy Boot, uh we've been around for a year now. We just had our year anniversary. What, that was like 2 weeks ago, something like that. uh
I yeah, just it was the 28th, so like 10 days ago.
yeah, there you go. So it's like we've been around for about a year, and for a year, a little over a year. And you popped in there the other the other month, like a few months ago. And it was me that mentioned you, I think, when I realized that you were actually in there. And I mentioned you a few times, and everybody was like, "Oh, don't bother her." And like, you came on, said hi, and you interacted a little bit, and it was like a celebrity. Like, a celebrity came in
It was
there.
Adeline all over again.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know if you were told that when you were there, but Adeline Grace, she popped in there the same way. Like, she just, like, mysteriously popped in, thinking it was the official Fairy Loot server. So she came in there like, "Hey, everyone," and like, she realized that it was just a whole bunch of fans, like, about to swarm her, and she bounced real quick.
No, she wasn't, because I messaged her on Instagram and I was like, you're welcome to join if you want. Like, we just talk about book boxes, and she was like, oh, I want to be respectful of readers' spaces. So, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But it was so funny because I was cleaning at the time and I came back to like 50 million pings on Discord, and I was like, oh my God, there's like people like posting really messed up stuff in here. Like, what is going on? And it was just like, I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I found it, and like, I think like the second message was someone saying, who's that?
Yeah.
Because he didn't realize who it was. And then he's like, wait, I just googled it.
Oh my god.
And so it's like become its own meme. It was so funny. I think, but yeah, I think I got pinged when you joined as well, and they were like, it's another celebrity, and I was like, oh my God. It was so funny.
Yeah, so it's super funny. So I'm on Discord under a different name. Like, it's similar but different. And right, I think I've been in the Discord for a long time. Um, but no one noticed the different name, and I was like kind of proud of myself. So, like, for a hot minute, I was like a lurker in there, and I just like pop in occasionally because Discord I use occasionally, but not like as much as like Instagram, um, for obvious reasons. uh, and so it was very funny when I started getting the tags from the Discord server. I was like, "Oh, okay, they found me."
I
So that
think we had Molly Chang in there for a while as well. I'm assuming it's her because the her Discord name was exactly the same as her Instagram name. And I just randomly saw it. It was before I don't know how I found it. I think I was like looking for a specific member and I just saw it and I was like, well, she's not in there anymore. But she was in there for like I think like a week or so. And I was like, I wonder if she thought it was like an official Discord as well. Um, but yeah, it's so funny. I'm like, how many people just and I turned on like it says when someone joins, so I'm like, we will find them.
Oh my god. Yeah, I forgot what I was doing. I think I was just on the laptop, and the list of names were there, and I saw your name, and I it was different from your Instagram name, but the picture was the same.
Mhm.
And that's where like it clicked. I was like, wait a minute. Either this is like, some stalker person trying to be like Autumn from Instagram, or this is her. So I was, I did a little like research, looking around, and I don't know, something verified with something clicked, and I was like, okay, this is her. And I just started mentioning, and like, I don't mess around. I'm you know a dad who doesn't really, like, I don't beat around the bush with stuff like that. Like, I'm not gonna be all like, "Oh, don't bother." No, I'm gonna, you're here. Hi, how you doing? Like, what's up?
Tag
So
you 5 times.
yeah. Yep.
Just like a chill goes down your spine. Oh God.
Well, it was so funny because I was at dinner with my family celebrating someone's birthday, and all of a sudden, like, I had my phone, like, in my front pocket, and it just started, like, going off, and I was like, "Oh god. Oh gosh." And so I was Discord. I was like, "Huh?" And then I was, like, started reading the messages, and I think, like, the biggest grin took over my face because I it was very, very flattering, and the excitement from people was it's crazy to me, just the level of excitement some people like expressed, um, and so it just it made my heart very happy.
That's awesome.
You're the biggest celebrity that we have in the Discord. So we're very happy to have you. And if you ever want to share any spoilers, please feel free.
Yeah.
If the broken binding ever hints at if you ever get any indication that anyone is doing the Old Kingdom by Garthnix, please you have to tell me.
Okay, noted.
It's my goat. It's my all-time favorite. I don't have the Daphne Press editions because I can't justify $150 for one single book. But
Fair.
like I'm on my hands crying, begging, screaming for the Broken Binding to do it in their sub, but I think it's like too YA for their sub.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, if anyone ever hints at it, please, you have to tell me.
good to know. I think I have dropped a couple tidbits here and there where I could especially after like we had the everyone realized I was in there. After that, I've dropped a couple, but I think the couple that I've dropped because my issue is because most of the time we're talking about fairy loot in there, and so I can't drop certain things because I have sources, and like there's been some things that I know about that I physically can't talk about for a hot
I
minute.
bet it kills you.
It kills it legit, uh especially when it's something that I'm super excited about. Okay, so like Nectar of the Wicked, which is the June, the June romantasy pick, I think. Yes, June
Mhm.
romantic. Um, that one I knew about, and when my source told me, I was like, oh my god, I was so excited because it sounded like a book I was actually interested in, and I was like, and I can't tell anyone.
How are you feeling about the Romantasy sub? Like I know it's still early. I like joined the wait list within like 2 minutes of it signing up, but then I ended up not subscribing because I found out that I don't like Romantasy as much as like low, like when it's the focus, I don't enjoy it as much, so I didn't subscribe. But it sounds like romantasy is your kind of book. How are you finding it so far? Because I know it's a very polarizing sub at the moment.
Very much so. Yes, so my main genre is romance. I'm a just romance across the board, dark, contemporary, monster, alien, all the romances are my thing. So when my subs have to have that, it's just something that I find enjoyment out of when I read. So um, for romantasy, when they originally announced it, I was cautiously interested because I mostly read indie. I don't read a lot of,
Mhm.
um, and Fairy Loot has very strong ties to a couple publishers in particular. And so when everybody was super excited about the sub, expecting it to be indie, because Fairy Loot dropped that reel, like, oh, these are the kind of books you can expect like these. And most of them were indie titles, and I was like, I don't believe you. Because that's just not how Fairy Loot works. Like without going into too much detail, I know they have certain contracts with certain publishers regarding
Mhm.
that they include. Um, and so I knew that there weren't going to be a lot of indie picks. So going in, I did not have high hopes. The first pick, Lore of the Wilds, um, I was like, okay, but I felt like it should have had more spice, given Fairy Loot's own definition that the romantasy sub is supposed to have spice. And as someone who reads like a lot of spice, I
Mhm.
want spicy. I like one or two scenes is not spicy to me. uh,
No, 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 no. It's not like for me, Spice is like the Kindle Unlimited like paranormal romance. That's where I'm like, oh, this is spicy. Anything else, I'm like, it's okay.
yeah, literally, exactly. And a lot of the ones like I'll be looking on Goodreads sometimes and I'll see where it's like this has got 4 peppers and I'm like, ooh, yay, and I'll read it and I'm like, this was like a 1, maybe
Like
2.
we need to have a universal definition of the spice rating because like your 4 is my like 0.5. We are
Right,
not the same.
exactly. Um, so yeah, the first pick I was like, and so I was like, uh-oh. I was like, is this what we're in for? And then the second pick, what the May pick was Curse of Blood and Wolves. I don't remember the exact title, but it's the one with the big wolf on the front.
Hmm.
uh, that one's a shifter romance, which is more my thing. And it does have some spice. So I immediately downloaded it on Kindle Unlimited or whatever, because it was actually it's been published, but the print edition is coming out in around May, which is why it's the May pick for Fairy Loot. So
Hmm.
I immediately downloaded it and keyword searched on my Kindle. I was like putting in all of the words, like, okay, I want to be able to count how many spicy scenes are in this book. Um, and I was like, okay, there's a decent amount, and I like read a couple of them, and I was like, okay, it's okay, fine. And so it was shifter, so it's like, okay. I would say I like that pick better for romantasy than Lore of the Wilds. It's not my top tier for what I would want for the romantasy sub. The
Mm.
June, which is the Ella Fields Nectar of the Wicked, that
Hmm.
one is by far what I want from the romantasy sub the most, like by a mile. Uh, it is just what I think of when I think of romantasy. So if they can keep on that level, then I will be very happy. Um, I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope. We are about to get into the fall season, which I think the fall season is where a lot of the book boxes get the better picks, because I think a lot of the publishers wait and hold books to release their heavy hitters for like August, September, October, and I think that's probably due to the holidays. Um,
Yeah.
so we are going to be getting into the big months soon, and I am very excited for those.
Yeah, I was surprised when they announced their romantasy sub, because to me, when I think about like true romantasy spicy books, I think about indie authors. Like I just think that that is such an indie dominated genre,
Yes.
that I was kind of like, what books are Fairy Loot going to do? And I know that they said like in their announcement and the interest form for authors and stuff that you could be an indie publish, but I will believe it when I see it that they pick an indie book. If they started doing indie books, oh boy, that would be crazy. I think that like their sub would just their waitlist would go insane because I think Fairy Loot plus the like their customizations plus the indie books like that market. I'm surprised that they haven't gone the indie route, and I'm assuming it is because of the deals that they have with the publishers. Is they've got we've kind of figured that out in the Fairy Boot Discord because they did the July YA book, they randomly did a like a special edition of her Cinderella retelling, and we were like, "What the hell? This is so random." And then like we realized, oh, she's got another book coming out this year. So I guarantee, like we were like, that's going to be in the monthly sub, and like lo and behold, it was. So I definitely
Yeah.
think like with their picks, they do have like it's very obvious they have deals there. But yeah, when they announced Romantasy, I was like, what kind of books are they going to do? Like because I don't think like their picks are already pretty romance heavy. It's just they don't have spice. And when I think of romance with spice, I'm thinking of indie books. Like, but I was really surprised when they picked a shifter romance book. I did not expect that from Fairy Loot. I know it's like in terms of like paranormal romance, it's like very tame, but I genuinely didn't expect them to do a shifter romance book. So if they start doing like heavier paranormal, I might have to subscribe on that waitlist because I'm like, I'm not a romantasy girly, but I am a paranormal romance girly. So if they started doing more of those, I might be in trouble.
Mhm. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the shift to romance. And I'm here for it. I hope they do more.
I just think like, yeah, I wonder if they're kind of like, there has to be a reason that they aren't doing indie special editions because I just think it is such a huge, like, they would make so much money. Like, let's be real, the indie girlies they go crazy for their special editions. There has to be like something that is preventing them from doing that and like waiting until they're traditionally published. And I imagine it would have something to do with the deals with the publishers that they work with, where it's like you've got to do X amount of books with us, which we see like they do Orbit a lot as well. So, but yeah, maybe it'll happen in the future, which would be nice. But
I feel
yeah,
I feel like you're here like trying to bait Autumn. Like I know you know something. Just
no,
spit it out.
no, I promise, I'm not. I'm just like it seems wild to me from a business point of view. Not that I'm like a business owner, but like it seems wild to me that they haven't tapped into that market because like the special editions for indie books, like they sell out like hotcakes, and like Fairy Loot will have special editions that will be in the trove like months later. And it's crazy to me that they haven't tapped into that market. Um, and I think from like an indie author POV, I don't think it's like I don't want to work with Fairy Loot because that's such huge exposure for them as well. So I feel like there has to be something in terms of like how Fairy Loot works with publishers because they do have that close relationship with the publishers in the UK that's preventing them from tapping into that market. Because to me, like they would make so much money, and I know they make a lot of money already, but like businesses can never make too much money. So I would like what I wouldn't give to be a fly on the wall in their offices to be like, please, I need to know the ins and outs of how this works.
So I can give a tidbit. Well, I was like, I want to give something on this podcast. I'll figure out something to give. I'll give it. So I
Do
won't say.
you want me? Do you want me? You want me to like tease it? Like you want me to like blurt it out? Like put some like sound effect to make it sound like
That
it's
would be so
really
funny.
really juicy. You know, like
I can do a dramatic gasp.
yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm always like, is it going to be as juicy as people are hoping? I don't know. um, so I know that a certain publisher, and I won't say which one, but I don't think it takes that much to figure out based on the ones that Fairy Loot works with. I know that there was an author who was in a bit of a bunch of different publishers were um, pitching her to get the book. And I know that one publisher in particular said to her that they would put in the contract that if she signed with them, that she would automatically have a spot in the Fairy Loot monthly box.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so that was what ultimately caused the author to sign with this publisher. So what that tells me is, because if it hasn't even been signed to a publisher yet, that tells me Fairy Loot hasn't read it. So that tells me that some of the picks in the boxes are just publisher agreements.
Mhm.
And I'm
Yeah.
not saying no one on the Fairy Loot team has read them and loved them eventually, but at some point in the process, some books are put into the box because it is contractually obligated.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely. That's surprising to me that publishers would use that, but it kind of makes sense because you do have like some arcs that will thank Fairy Loot in like the author's notes at the end of the book. Like that we, there's been a few leaks from that, or it'll be on what's the publisher website, and it'll be like Fairy Loot monthly pick when they're like talking about the upcoming book release. You know, the one that like the booksellers use, Edelweiss, I think it
Otherwise,
is.
yeah, otherwise.
Yeah, and it'll be like future Fairy Loot pick, and it's like on no one's radar. So that does, but I'm surprised that the relationship with between Fairy Loot and the publishers is that close. What my understand, or how I thought it worked is the publishers would have like a book that is coming out that is very popular, and they would have a deal with Fairy Loot with like, we'll do, like, you can do a special edition of this book, but we need you to do this book as well, which is what I thought had happened with the Cinderella and the July YA pick, the Snow White one, because it was just so random. Like, it's an already published book. It, to me, didn't seem like it was that popular, and then all of a sudden Fairy Loot announced a special edition for it, and then when we looked into it we were like, oh, she has. And I think another one, there's like the police romance one. I think she has like a YA book coming out this year as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's not one of the monthly picks as well, because it was just so random out of nowhere. Here's the special edition. So that's how I thought it worked. It was like, we've got hyped releases coming out. We'll let you do special editions for them, but you also have to do some special editions of these, up and coming authors or these debut authors that aren't getting as much hype. So it's interesting that they use it for like actually getting publishing rights. It kind of makes you wonder if like anyone else has the same kind of deal.
I would be very interested to know. Especially so like there was the longstanding rumor that Illumicrate and Fairy Loot had an agreement about not doing the same monthly pick, but like I feel like Illumicrate has debunked that, but I still think it's
Yeah.
that they don't do the same monthly pick. However, sometimes one of them will include it as a monthly and the other one will do it as a separate special edition. I think that's an
Mhm.
interesting, like, good way to get around that.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
think Babel was the only one, right?
Um,
That
that was.
they both had Babel the same month.
I'm trying to remember. Is Yeah, I think Fairy Loots was, and yeah, maybe they were both in the subscription.
Yeah, and
Mm.
they were both subscription. They were both, because I remember when I looked into it and I was going like, and that's where I jumped off the ledge for stupid boxes. That I was like, looking at videos and stuff. And I remember there was somebody that was unboxing, and they were saying that they got both editions because they subscribed to both boxes. So
Mm.
it was.
Was the Atlas 6 in Illumicrate's monthly?
No, that was separate special edition.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I
So
think
that's the only one that comes to mind.
yeah, Babel's the only one that I can think of too. Which I mean is interesting. I appreciate that for both of them. Because sometimes I, I sometimes their styles can get similar with some of the picks, but for the most part, I think Illumicrate has a distinctly different style than Fairy Loot. But sometimes they can overlap,
Mm.
like Fable. Um, so I'm glad, uh, especially with Fairy Loot's skip policy, that they don't overlap more. But I would be interested to know how, as far as like Illumicrate and their contracts with publishers.
Well, I guess especially because they have like their imprint now, the Daphne Press. So like I wonder if that is because they do the special editions for them in their monthly book pick. So I wonder if like if there is a bid for those books that is obviously that's a huge factor.
Mm.
Like if I was an author and I had the option of choosing like a company that's going to give me a guaranteed pick in a book box, hell yeah, I'm signing that contract. Like that's even just to have a book published is I can only imagine, but I imagine it's like the greatest feeling of the world. To then have a special edition of that book, I would die. Like they could pay me pennies and I would sign that contract.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Like even just the way those companies work, I'm like, it would just be so interesting to like spend a day in their office to see like what goes on in terms of like not like I know obviously they can't get into the contracts, but like how they pick their books because I know they have like the curators, but how much of the curators really contributing if they've got these deals with the publishers?
Right. Well, and I'd be interested because there now you have some publishers who have their own book boxes. So, um,
Mm,
like HarperCollins owns Locked Library, and
yeah.
so like I think this has come up recently with Locked Library doing When the Moon Hatched because everybody was hoping that Fairy Loot would do it. Um, well, Locked Library, part of their whole gimmick is that they have exclusive rights for the book and that no other boxes are going to do it. Um, and so part of me is wondering how long that lasts, like how long the exclusive lasts. Like, is Fairy Loot going to be able to do it in 2025? Um, and also, what does that look like for contracts?
Yeah, and then it's see, Locke's Library is interesting because they only ship to the UK, right?
They ship anywhere, but they don't ship to the US and Canada because of license,
Okay.
the publisher
Yeah,
license.
yeah, yeah. So I wonder if like, I guess because they are directly related to the publisher, it's hard. Because I know like Fairy Loot is like, yeah, we'll ship anywhere, but if they're directly a publishing company, then it makes sense that they are limited to anywhere except the US and Canada. Because yeah, that When the Moon Hatched is that's gonna be an expensive secondhand buy if anyone's trying to get it.
Yeah, and based on things I've heard, it's gonna be. I'm very excited for how it's gonna look based on things I've heard.
Nice. I have liked the local libraries editions. They seem like they're pretty. I really loved I think it was their October one with the broomsticks on the edges. I thought that was really
Mm.
cute. Um, I just yeah, I even if I'm not subbed to like a company, I just love seeing like the artistry behind the book designs. I think like the people that they work with are so talented. I'm begging Fairy Loot to do more covers with Bluey. Boo. I think she's 100% my aesthetic and she does such good work. And she just did the PS I Love You books, which I'm
Mm.
skipping because I'm trying to be financially responsible, but boy, that was so tempting. Um,
I
Yeah,
but yeah, I love seeing the artistry behind it and like I'm starting to get the supplies to like do my own rebinds. And when I try to think of ideas, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, how do they do this? I'm like, I try to think of something that looks good, and I'm like, wow, that is awful. I don't understand how they do it.
like I know who you're talking about, but it's like when you say Bluey and you're Australian, like I think about the Disney show Blue Dogs. I love the show.
Yeah.
Like I watch it all the time with the kids. But yeah, it's all the I was trying to chime in, but I get I've been just letting you guys go. Like, ever since the spicy talk, I try to back off from the spicy talk. The indie authors and all that stuff in the publishing, Owl Crate is dipping their toes into it too now. I saw that they just started their own publishing
Mm,
company as well. So they're looking to have it like, the same thing, a mix of established authors with new, debut authors. And it seemed like it was a promising aspect for people who were, looking to get out there and get published and all that stuff. So that's it's exciting if that's what you're into and that's what you're trying to either, keep up with, or you're, wanting to put something out yourself. And, like I mentioned before, and it's been on my mind for lately for the past few weeks, trying to get something going for myself too. So it's exciting to know that the options are like that out there, for
mm.
indie authors and stuff.
And I wonder if this is the shift that we're going to see as a response to, the special edition market being saturated, where it's like, you know, a book now, it's not just that one special edition. Like, there's a good chance that the first edition will have a special copy. Waterstones is very likely to have a copy, or even after the fact, the publishing company may come out, like the Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust just came out with the special edition from the publisher. So I wonder if companies will start now just creating these imprints, and then part of their subscription books will be these indie authors that they sign, and then they're the only ones that do those special editions. So if you want it, you have to be subscribed to them. And I wonder if that's what we'll start see is them, you know,
Yep.
kind of scooping up these authors to maintain that exclusivity.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting to the point where there's, I mean, Autumn could tell us that there's a lot of there's a lot of subscription boxes out there. So there's gotta be something that's gonna be, you know, to show that you're worth it, like you got something that only you could have as your box that you want people to subscribe to you for. So it's that probably is going to be the next step for the next evolution, and these boxes, is going to go from, everybody having different stenciled edges to one specific author or one specific thing, like being for this only book box. So you know of course, Autumn probably knows a lot more than what she's letting on, and she's like just there, like,
She's like, just you wait.
yeah.
Well, it's partially hard because, like I said, there's things I know from like sources and things, but I don't think a lot of people realize there's some boxes that when you're a rep for them, um, they require you to sign an NDA.
Mm.
So there are a few boxes that I have an NDA for, um, which hurts my soul because like the entire reason that I do all this now is I like all the secrets. um but so there are a bunch of things I know, and not all boxes I have an NDA for, but uh like I said, with sources and different things, I try to
Yeah.
relate what I can because it is very
Mm.
hard to keep a secret. I am the type of person where, like, when my family, like when there's a secret that I know and like I'm not supposed to tell someone in my family, they'll be like, what are you hiding? Because I have it all over my face.
Yeah. So
At least this is digital. You can hide it. In real life, you're sweating.
so what I'm gathering, what I'm getting from this is that you really want to say something right now. You really want to you want to open the bag a little bit. and so it's okay. I mean, like I said, I could edit stuff. It's fine. So it's up to you. No pressure, but whatever. So
Mm.
so we've been touching on a lot of stuff, and I put in the chat how long are we going, and it's scary now at one almost 1:30 in the morning. I think, Sarah, we had this problem for our last show that it was just like, we just keep on going. But you know, what we to round to start to start winding down here, uh, you know, because it's like we said earlier, I already forgot if that was on air or off air. When you're trying to say bye to family, it's like it's a process. So let's start the process. So
I'm
then,
moving to the kitchen.
yeah, maybe, yeah, we're gonna move into the kitchen and then the entryway. So maybe in the next half hour, 40 minutes or so, we could wrap it up officially. But but what is it? We've been talking about all the book boxes, all the things that we like, all the things that we are looking forward to for whatever. uh I wanted to ask before I forget. let's say let's say that there was only one box that you could keep, that there was only one that you could go with. I know Sarah's answer. So if you want to just officially say it, go ahead and say it. But like, if there was one that you could just keep, and that all the other ones have to go, like what is that one for you?
For me, I would keep Fairy Loot.
Yeah. Well,
I
duh.
do
Yeah.
I do like their picks. Um, I mean, I only have the three subs, the Fairy Loot, Broken Binding, and Evernight. And I do like Evernight because it's a mix of genre. It's the horror sub. And Broken Binding I like because prior to like Fairy Loot. Essentially, like 2020, I read Akatar, and prior to that, I only read high fantasy. Like, I was not a YA reader. I was reading like, 800 pages, epic fantasies that tore your heart out and like took you on an adventure. So, I didn't that's why I like the Broken Binding because it's like a level of nostalgia for me, especially with the lives of Loki Lamora, which is the current sub book. I really loved that series. Me and my family did like a buddy read of it. So it's like got that nostalgia feeling for me. So it's a very, even though I've only just started Broken Binding, it is a very close tie between them and Fairy Loot. But Fairy Loot just really revitalized my love for reading, and like even though they have a certain style of book that they pick, I do like that primarily they're kind of like a different one each month. And I can kind of like pick and choose what I'm in the mood for. So yeah, it was a Fairy Loot I would keep.
Well, duh.
I know I'm the number one sip.
All right. Are you okay, Autumn? Did you?
Oh, it's such a hard question. That's like that's so hard. Okay. I'm going to take early access out of it because part of the reason that Fairy Loot is such a good sub for me is that I feel like a lot of the picks that I really love for them are there is the books that they do not in the sub. It's the ones you get early access to with the sub.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna pretend like that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's
and
fair.
go like solely based on the book picks and like customizations. Um, Probably my Eternal Embers Onyx sub, which is a quarterly sub, and they do omnibuses. So
Mm-hmm.
they have multiple books bound up into one edition,
Mm-hmm.
and they typically come with a slipcase. Um, and they are just, ugh, they're always super stunning. Like they just did the Bargainer series by Laura Thalassa as one of their picks, and multiple companies have done that series, but Eternal Embers is far and away my favorite. It's just such a beautiful book. I loved every aspect that they did with it. Um, and just every single one of the picks has been different, but all books that I would like. Like they started out with a dark romance pick, and then they moved to uh another like contemporary like taboo romance, and then they did Bargainer, which is fantasy, and their newest one's going to be like a Pepper Winters uh dark romance again. Like they bounce around, and they hit all of my favorite genres while also doing omnibuses, which I just love. I'm a sucker for a thick book. um,
Hmm.
and slipcases are also a kryptonite for me. Um, so I just love them. I have had the sub for probably close to a year now since they started. Um, and I have been happy with literally every single book.
That's
Nice.
that,
I love
that's
that.
good.
I love when people are like satisfied with their, because it's disappointing when you like are gambling on a sub and then you get something that's like, oh, I hate it.
Mhm.
So it's always good when people are like so hyped about what they receive.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be something I never heard of. Like I I was expecting it, but I'm afraid now to look into it though. So
Yeah, there are
I have seen their editions and they are beautiful.
yeah, like just I went like there's this Bargainer has this iridescent foil. Like I could go on and on. But the iridescent foil, it just looks so good. It looks so good.
all right. So here's another question, another one that I had like that I thought of because I was, I'm the host. I was thinking, I was like, okay, what are some questions that I would, be given these to? So here's another one. Uh, should be pretty easy. What is your favorite, you know, your favorite book and your favorite edition that you have? Like, they don't have to be the same. Uh, it's a simple question, but I'm sure not a lot of people ask you or you don't have, chance to ever say it yourself or whatever. So, what's your favorite book that, all time like that you always love to read? And what's the favorite thing on your shelf?
My all-time favorite, I have two. The first one is The Old Kingdom. I will never not. It's my Instagram handle. I will never not recommend this book. It's like I think it's coming on 30 years old now, and I reread it last year, I think, and it still holds up so well. Also, Garth Nick's Unproblematic King still remains an unproblematic king to this day, so I will forever love him for that. I got to meet him a few times in person, and he is so nice. I was like a mess the first time I met him, and then I sent him a message on Facebook to apologize for being such a mess, and then he responded, and he was so nice to me. So I will never not recommend his books. And then the other one is the Empire trilogy by Raymond E. Feist and Jenny Works. It's in the same universe as his Magician series, but it's like a standalone series. They're like loosely connected, and it is one of like my all-time favorite high fantasy books. It's so good, and I've like tried to find books with a similar vibe, and they just do not compete. I think I reread it like when I first read it, I like read one book and then immediately reread it because it was so good, and I was like, I just need to go back. Um, and then I recently finished The Sword of Kaigen, and that was a 10 out of 10 book, and I feel like that's going to be up there in terms of like my all-time favorites. Um, I'm kicking myself that I didn't get any of the special editions, so I'm gonna have to pay the reseller cost. But those are Garth Nix's all-time favorite. Empire trilogy is also all-time favorite, and Sword of Kaigen is in the running to be an all-time favorite.
Nice. Yeah, like get to see. I've never read any of those. Like I never the first.
I think
Oh
you would
yeah.
really like the Empire trilogy. I think you would also really like the Sword of Kaigen, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. So if you've got a Kindle Unlimited subscription, you can read it for free. I think you would really like that. I think it's definitely up your alley. It's so, so good. And then you can come and yell at me for making you read it.
Sarah, did you buy the Page and Wick edition of Sword of Dragon?
I I did not because like I knew of it, but I hadn't read it. And then like I subscribed to Audible because like I never used to be an audiobook girly. I kind of had to train myself to listen to audiobooks because I get so distracted. So I only really listen to them if I'm driving like to work or if I'm doing housework. So it's like very rare that I'll sit down and listen to an audiobook. And I just randomly was like, I kept seeing people in the Discord talking about it. I was like, ah, the audiobook's there, I'm gonna buy it. Um, so no, I didn't get the Page and Wick edition. I hate myself for it. I think the Wraith Marked edition is getting reprinted but different, so I will probably get that. And then I'm praying that one day the Broken Binding will do an edition because I feel like it's very much their vibe. Especially now that they do their special indie editions, I think that could be a good pick for them. Did you get the Page and Wick edition?
Um, so I was very tempted, especially when they reprinted it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I stopped myself because I haven't read it.
I try Yeah, I try not to get special editions of books that I haven't read because I don't like, especially when some of them are so expensive. I'm like, I don't want to spend this much money and then not like it. Like even with the Fairy Loot special editions, I usually don't, unless it's an author that I know I like or it's a book that I've been like hyped about, I won't buy the special editions either.
And
It's a
then,
it's a slippery slope.
and what was your answer to your favorite special edition that you own?
Um, that is a tricky one. I think I would have to go with a tie between the Illumicrate Swordcatcher. I think that is like the most stunning book they've ever done. The stained glass edges are so like Fairy Loot's edition is okay. I think it would have been fine if
Oh shit.
Illumicrate had done their editions before. If we didn't have that to compare it to, I think Fairy Loot's edition would be fine. But and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping that Fairy Loot's edition would be a bit of a letdown so that I could pick between the two of which one I'm going to complete because it's like I think it's like a 5 book series or something it's supposed to be, which is insane. And then I really love Fairy Loot's Daughter of the Moon Goddess as well. That would be up there.
Hmm.
I'm an edge girly, so I base purely like 90% of my do I like this or not based on the edge. Those are, but yeah, Illumicrate sword catcher. The foiling on the hardcover is stunning. The end paper art is like it's probably my favorite end paper art out of all my special editions. It is so beautiful and it fits the vibe of the book so much. Fairy Loot edition randomly has the carriage as one of the characters, which yes, there is a carriage in the book, but it's really weird that they chose that as the end paper art. Um, yeah, I think Illumicrate. I'm so excited to see how they do the rest of the series with the edges. So that's my pick for my favorite. What about you?
As far as favorite book of all time, it's going to sound cliche, but it would be A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which
Mm-hmm.
I I know. I've read it like 7 times, I think. Um, it I read it at a time in my life where I really needed it and where the main female character, her headspace at the very beginning of that book, and some of the things she's going through, uh,
Mm-hmm.
really resonated with me, and in a way that I'd never seen before in a book. So for that reason, it will always have a special place in my heart. Um, as far as my favorite special editions, it's a tie between two. Um, my first one would be my PR special editions of The Bonds That Tie, which for people that don't know, you had to apply to get that box. It wasn't one you could buy.
Jeez.
Um, you had to apply to. They reviewed the applications based on like they asked you for like review links and stuff, and like they wanted it to go to fans who truly appreciated the series. And it was like the author and her PA curated them. And I will never forget, like, I actually still have the video up on my Instagram of me unboxing that box. I was like basically in near tears. um Opening that box because those editions are so stunning, and like you like, I mean, it was the author and her PA that curated the box, so like it makes sense, but it just fit so well. Like they're perfect. Like people make jokes all the time, but I will literally be buried with those books. Like they're not going anywhere. uh, and then my ones, as far as ones I physically bought, that are probably my favorites, it would be the Mystic editions of Savar Miller's Monsters and Muses, which they did as an Apolycon exclusive, which I picked up at a Polycon a week and a half ago, but like they announced them months ago. And I remember when they showed like the reveals, like the mock-ups, and I literally gasped, and then I just sat there like staring for like a solid 2 minutes because they are just very, very beautiful. The cover art, I would literally buy anything regardless of what genre, what book it is. I would literally buy anything that cover artist does, because their artwork is stunning.
That's all.
So,
I wish I'm gonna have to, when I go to edit this, I'm gonna have to like look up and search for like everything that everybody's talking about, and like make sure it's all getting linked up in the show notes so that people could like, you know, oh, what, I wonder what they're talking about, and they can just go click on it. So yeah, maybe send me over you know, text form, like what are the things that we're listing off here in case I miss anything, so I could get that going, because I'm interested in seeing what these special editions are that you guys are calling your favorites. But yeah, the whole applying for 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 getting the book, that is both like ridiculous and awesome. Like it's like it's something that, you know, you think, holy crap, why would someone go through that? But then at the same time, it's like, you know, that that's going to be special, like, you know, if the author is going through that process to do that.
yeah, and I mean, I truly feel terrible because the whole purpose was she didn't want them to go to people who were just going to resell them. That was why you had to apply.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it still falls through the cracks, obviously. And like I was moving bookcases. I was like rearranging, and a friend was helping me, and I was handing her books, and I was like, I handed her the PR ones, and I was like, be very careful with these. And she was like, why? I was like, not only because I love them, but it would be impossible to replace them because people sell them for like literally, it's a 3 book set currently, and they resell for $1,000 to $2,000 US. Like they are in like top tier for resale, like if you can find them.
Yeah, I was gonna say I I mean obviously like the Australian book selling marketplace is a lot different than the US, but I have never seen one for sale in Australia.
Yeah, they're very hard to find.
Which is good because like it sounds like I mean obviously like you said they still fall through the cracks, but like it's good that for the majority the people who got them did really appreciate them.
Right, right, and that's what I think the author wanted, and uh that is where my heart is happy about it. And I mean, if you're willing to spend that much money from a reseller to get it, I presume that you love and adore the series. So
Yeah.
eventually, someone who loved them. So
Yeah, that is crazy. That's awesome. that would be up there too on my collection. So I don't blame you for that one. That would be because for me, like it's like I'm I'm a stay-at-home dad. I don't have an income for a plethora of stuff to come in to sit on my shelf. But so it's like I have the tendency to like get something and then like look at it and be like, I'm all right letting this go if I have to get something else. So, there's a few things that I have that are definite, like they're not going anywhere. Like they're gonna stay here. Like there's no way I'm gonna be able to let them go for whatever because I love them so much. So it's like something like that, even though that it is that much money that I could get for it, if I had it, well, I still like, the sentimental person in me, I would be, it would be something for me to have to sell it. Like that's like, I'm crazy like that. As much as I need money, like I would never sell something if I knew it was that special. It's, I don't know, it's something collectors are burdened with, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What is one of the ones you would never let go of?
Uh for me, uh I think my top one would be Amina.
Mm.
Amina was that was my first Fairy Loot one, and I think it's up there because like I love the aesthetic of it. I love the foil, on the cover. I love the end papers, like the colored maps. Uh like I'm a sucker for maps. So, and that they're so detailed and and all that. Uh on top of everything with looks, it's also like my top read last year. Like it was my favorite book that I read last year. So it's like a really hard to pick something else. uh it's like it's the double whammy of great book and great special edition. So I'm happy that I was able to jump in on the Fairy Loot train for that month because it was it was really really close to not happening. But yeah, that would be the special edition. The favorite book though, I mentioned was Project Hail Mary. That was the the book that got me into reading like most recently. I used to read a lot when I was growing up and when I was first with my wife. I would read here and there. Like I wasn't like an avid reader, but I read a few things here and there. But when I got into Project Hail Mary and I got into that, that was like what really got me like, okay, I should really be reading more because that was like, that was an amazing story that I really loved. And, it was like the eye opener for me for my adult self, I guess.
Nice. Amina is it is a very good book. It was one of my favorite reads last year as well. And I think the very late edition is I think the foiling on that one was my favorite of last year. So 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that edition is like really stunning. I love the foil on that one.
Yeah, it was really hard for me to like the whole lineup for Fairy Loot for last year. It was hard for any of them to beat Amina. And I think it was what, February? Like it was the beginning of the year.
Hmm.
So, but
Well, not long after that they did their, their copy paste edge error.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that was something.
It was rough. It was hard. It was a hard time being a Fairy Loot fan.
all
At
right.
least it was short lived. They learned.
Yeah, it's our fault. I swear, like there's gotta be someone in Fairy Loot that knows us. Like, I mean, I'm sure we got the moles and everything in Fairy Boot, but I'm sure they talk shit about us at some point. Like, these
Probably.
this
I
freaking
would. If I
Discord.
saw how some of us bitch, I would be like,
Yeah.
God, they're at it again.
Yeah. I know you said you were lurking, Autumn. I don't know if you were lurking enough to know of our escapades that we were going about over there in the Discord with Fairy Loot. That was we've got some history and some stickers to commemorate the events. But it's been a fun time. It's it it's been a year, in that community, and it's awesome that it's grown so much in the way that it has, and it's really blown up uh most recently in the past few weeks or month or two or so. uh just an influx of people coming in and making it even bigger and bigger, and it's an awesome little corner of book nerds to know and to learn to know and all that stuff. So it's awesome to be a part of, and awesome that you picked up that ball, Sarah, and also equally awesome that that you've been working and that you pop in there, Autumn. So it's a nice little space.
I love it. I'm very glad that I created the Discord. When I first started it, I was like, we talked about this last time, but I was like, oh God, because the original Fairy Loot Discord was it was an experience. I do not like it sucks that they deleted it, but I don't blame them. I would have deleted it too. And so when I started this one, I was really worried that it was going to be the same thing. But really, like it's been chill for like 99.9% of the time, where
Mm.
everyone's like very nice, very lovely. I think there's like three people on the ban list, and that's it. So that's pretty good for 12 months. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
I'm
really
really
good.
happy with that. And I think like one of them was someone who is doing like shady sale things. So they weren't banned for like starting drama. They were banned to like prevent people getting scammed. Um, but yeah, I love it. I've like made some great pocket friends through it. I've learnt about like amazing new books that I probably never would have, learnt about had I not
Mm.
been in the Discord. So it's a really great place to be.
Yeah, the freaking books I bought because of that place. I mean, don't get me started. Like Autumn,
The money I've
Autumn,
spent.
Autumn is cool. Autumn like does a whole lot of work, and she's awesome. But I could easily avoid Instagram and like just not pay attention to her. But the Discord, if I'm in there just mingling and talking or whatever, like it's hard to ignore like people just throwing it in your face. You got to get this. You got to subscribe to that. You got to do that. And oh, Jesus Christ, shut up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done your special edition Amazon list, Autumn. I've done some damage on that. And I've shared it to like all my friends who are like semi bookish but not super bookish. Um, like they don't have like subs or anything like that. But I'm like, oh, you can just buy this from Amazon, and they've done some damage through that as well. So I hope you get revenue from that because yeah, I think I have like maybe 15 books on pre-order from your list.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, the similar to like everything else, that list started out where it was just like me a way for me to like keep track of things. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I should share it because I'm on like for people who don't want to subscribe to boxes, like just to be able to buy special editions. And then it turned into I think there's like 150 books on that list.
Yeah, but it's like because they're all like US Amazon, so I would have no idea about them
Mm.
otherwise. So I'm grateful, but also Jesus Christ.
I know these publishers need to slow down. They're like killing me.
Like
Oh,
the cost of living is has never been higher. Please.
man.
but I love it. It's like aside from like I do my own nails, so aside from that, this is like the only thing that I really spend the money on for myself. So it's like my one like I don't have kids that I have to worry
Mm.
about. I've got except for my cats, but I have the luxury of being able to spend money on books that I will probably never get around to reading.
Nope, not me. I'm screwed. Like I got I got gaming and I got the the forgotten vinyl collection that I haven't contributed to since I got into books. Uh yeah, I spread myself pretty thin for someone who doesn't have a job. It's not fun. But yeah, if there's I don't know if there's anything else you guys got in mind that you want to throw out there or anything. I mean, we're coming up on getting close to 2 a.m. You guys said you could go for as long as however, but there's gotta be something here. I mean, as much
You're
as I
like,
agree.
please, please let me leave.
They're like, I've got kids. Like, I gotta...
Yep, they don't know no different. They're gonna be up at the same time. So it's uh so like I could go on. You see, that's the thing. I could keep on going. So that's that's the dangerous part, because it's, good conversation and, it seems like, Autumn's having a good time, on her first podcast. So it's something that it's really it's dangerous to keep going. Also, I'm not sure many people enjoy, 2.5, 3 hour long podcasts. So it's something that we could slow it down, say our goodbyes, and maybe do it again. I mean, I'm sure the feeling's mutual, but you guys are more than welcome to hop back on again and get into other stuff. I think I joked with Sarah before, like we should do this like a monthly thing to catch up on things, or you know however long, just to like, because it's ever changing all the time with everything. So so whatever it is would be good for whatever, like, it's a fun time talking about books because it's something that a lot of people get into and, discover and rediscover. Like you mentioned the court of thorn and roses series. I have a friend of mine that just recently started the first one, and so she is discovering that now, and it's something that somebody else was warning her about the second book, about how much that's her favorite book. So it's it's always fun meeting people that are getting into like the stuff that about and all that stuff. So and you see why we have to end this, because now I just feel like I'm rambling. So it's and then you guys are just letting me go. So that's so so again, is there anything that you have on your mind, Sarah, that you want to throw out there for anything? Go ahead and let people know like where they could find you or whatever like that. I'll be sure to post anything, put everything in the show notes for all that stuff. But let them know whatever for following you.
Um, I don't have like anything like in terms of like conversation topics. I don't have anything new to add. I just want to do, because I know like a lot of them will be listening. A very happy 1 year anniversary to Fairy Boot. Um, if you, I'm not very active on Instagram. I have like bursts of activity, and then um, I'm like, well, that was fun for a weekend. I'm done now. But my Instagram is Old Kingdom and Beyond. I do occasionally post book content on there, but it is very rare. But I do post my nails a lot and cats. So if that's your thing, there you go.
Yep. And then as for me, I don't have anything to add. I'm sure I would love to come on again. I'm sure we can at some point. because I could just talk forever, and I'm sure if I sit there and think of things, I could say 1,000. Um, so yeah, I don't have anything more to add. As far as if anyone's looking for me,
Yeah,
my
I don't think anybody knows where you are. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, for like the people who don't know, uh, I'm the Autumn Book Reads on Instagram. I mean, I do have like TikTok and other, but like realistically, it's mostly the same for those. So Instagram's the main one.
Sounds good. All right.
You know, I'm always down for another one. We just have to schedule
Yeah.
it for what, 3 months?
Yeah. Well,
Well, I
let's.
have Wednesdays off now, so that makes it easier.
Well, easier for you. I mean, it's
Yeah, true.
2 a.m. in the middle of the week for me, but it's fine. Uh, yeah, we need to put it into the universe now so that the time to cook could could start going. Uh, it usually takes us like a good month of, are we gonna do another one? Yeah, let's do another one until we actually do it. So so yeah, it is greatly appreciated. Thank you for joining me. Uh, I I'm excited for how this came out. It was fun to talk, and hopefully Fairy Boot does not explode because of all the people that find out Autumn's in there now. But doesn't explode more than what it already has exploded. Put it that way. But yes, thank you very much. Hope you guys have a good night, and see you next time you want to jump on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.